All right, another totally rewarding chats coming at you. How's it going, Mr. Ryman?
It's going. It's summer. It's to date and timestamp. We're mid World Cup, right? It's an exciting time, although maybe a disappointing one, depending on what country you're from.
Oh yeah, I think when this comes out, it's probably a week or two. Actually, this is kind of one of those weird things. We're recording here, and even if it's a week or two, like 2 weeks will be too
A
late.
lot changes. A lot
Yeah, a
changes.
lot
Your
changes.
team might be in as we are recording, and it might not be by the time you listen to it. So
Well, I'm historically my dad was born in Austria, so I'm excited when they make it. And the fact that they scored any goals was like a W. But being from there historically, the German team sucking was not
not on
what
your
I
card.
yeah, that was not what I'd hoped for.
And your Brazilian Guaraná providers are disappointed. Like, I'm sensing a trend here. Any team connected to Sean is not performing well in the
Can we
in
tie
the
this later to when Susan starts talking? We'll talk it to incentives and performance. I should be getting. I don't. I'm never in the conversation about incentives
That's
because that assumes you did some performing um, as you go. Um,
that's great.
so I am excited to have Susan here. I met her in Nashville and have her on here talk about incentives. But before we get going, so that I don't ruin it or prove to people that I can't read a LinkedIn profile, I guess. Susan, can you give us your background and kind of where you're at today and how you got there?
Sure. Thank you. Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I'm a co-owner of a consulting firm, Wilton Group, which was started in 1994 by Tom Wilson in Massachusetts. And Rhonda Farrington and I took it over, and we service mid-size companies in all sorts of compensation. But prior to that, I was internal, as we call it, and worked at some large companies like Aetna Life and Casualty, a subsidiary of Fidelity. Um, and I worked for General Cinema. Do you remember that movie company? That's now
Mm.
AMC. And that was a family-owned company. That was fun. Um, so that's my background, always in compensation, maybe a little bit in HR, but always in compensation.
Okay. And interestingly, when we've spoken before, let's see, in the order that you were there, where have you
Oh.
lived?
Starting from here, going back.
Oh,
So
wait, well, that's like the DUI test if you have to do the alphabet backwards.
You do
Isn't
it
it harder to go
backwards.
backwards? Like, what is
all
that?
right, I'll
Like,
start.
you pick
All right,
whichever way's easier.
It's more.
all
It's
right.
it's you have to like choose to how old do you show you are if you start from like
It
birth,
gets
right? It's like,
it
oh my
gets
gosh, all those
I didn't.
moves.
I didn't ask for the years. I didn't want to ask for the years.
good. I might have to look at my resume. Started in after graduating from Michigan State with a degree in labor and industrial relations, master's. I followed my husband to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then we moved to Connecticut, Hartford, Connecticut, where we both worked for Aetna. Then we moved to Massachusetts, where I picked up the General Cinema, the Fidelity connection, and then Wisconsin. So he's a CHRO type. So he got moved or he
Well,
took different jobs. So I just
I'm
followed
fascinated
along
by
for the
we
fun.
have a CHRO and an HR consultant in the same place and how that goes.
Purely coincidence too, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Well, we met at Michigan State,
Yeah.
yes.
There you go.
So then Wisconsin, and then New Hampshire, and then Nashville.
So you just
Yeah.
like to boomerang back and
Uh,
forth between the Midwest and the Northeast. Like it's
yes, yes.
Uh,
It is an interesting
yeah.
culture change. Yes.
So we have the speed round before we dive
Hmm.
in. So, are you a coffee or tea person?
Coffee.
And then now it's become 5.5 questions if you're coffee. Are you a coffee
Good
snob?
coffee.
Yeah, are you a coffee
Yeah.
snob or you just like
Yes.
coffee?
I'm a coffee snob. I don't like drip coffee.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would actually that might be the new line. Actually, if someone says they're a snob, but they like drip coffee, like,
It's like, really? If you don't
yeah,
have a
yeah.
preferred
But
presentation,
but
like,
I
why?
but I did have a Keurig today. I'm visiting my son in Dallas, and all he has is a Keurig, and I was too lazy to walk to
And
Starbucks.
by the way, you've just reiterated your snob by all he has is a Keurig. Like, to be fair,
Right.
like, yeah. It's a yes or no question. Yes or no to manager discretion in the merit process. And you can't do the it depends or but like a consultant wants to.
Yes.
Okay. Um, you have a weekend away. Let's see if I should have you start asking this, Paul. You have a weekend away, no spousal or child units around. So it's your complete choice. Do you go for a posh weekend away or camping in the woods?
Posh. I did that once with my sister. We went to a resort, Miraval. It's up in Western Mass, where you live,
Yeah.
Sean. And there's one. It was like the best weekend ever.
To be fair, Paul, I know what it is. They would not let me in
Yeah.
if I tried to go there. Like, I can see you already starting to go. That is also not a place you will find me. So if you want to find me in Western Mass, don't start there. Like that's
Right.
yeah.
Right. We have both ends of the question spectrum between like Sean's house or nearby and like the Sean neighborhood and this place
Yeah.
Right.
apparently.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds great.
Best vacation spot you've ever been, people should go.
Oh, I've been on a lot of great vacations, many times to Hawaii, which I
Okay.
love Hawaii, but recently Morocco. I loved the culture
Mm.
there, and it was just amazing. I recommend it.
So I guess side question, Morocco, were you cheering for Morocco?
Yes.
Okay. um, and then are you a crunchy or creamy peanut butter person?
Ooh, this is a can I like give a little more background? I haven't eaten
Oh,
peanut butter for many, many years. I react to it. I have a reaction, an inflammatory reaction.
I assume it's
So
bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
no,
okay.
no, it's not. It's not like allergic.
Okay.
And so I love creamy almond butter.
There you go.
Oh,
That's my
okay.
favorite.
That's
I
fair.
don't know if they make that crunchy or not. Creamy
they
almond
they
butter.
they do make more earthy almonds. So I have a son with a
Yep.
peanut allergy, so not
Mhm.
similar. We have to form our preferences around it, and yeah,
Mhm.
some sunflower butter, some almond butter, some cashew butters. We've experimented with them all, and
Mhm.
almond butter is pretty tasty.
But they do
Yes,
make it
it
in
is.
a, what did you just call it?
Earthy. So there's some that like they try to emulate like creamy peanut butter, right? Like it literally is the same as creamy peanut butter. It's just made with a different nut.
Yeah.
And then others, it's just like a natural peanut butter, right? But they make a natural almond butter that has more of a kind of
Okay.
oil and
The creamy
oil
I've had it,
separation,
but there's
some
no
bits in
chunks
it,
there's no like chunks of almonds in it, is
small
there?
bits,
Okay.
small bits. Not
Okay.
like
None
big
of the ones I
chunks.
eat.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in other
Yeah.
words, did they grind up the almonds and put oil in it, and then that's the what did you call that, Paul? Natural
Earthy.
or
The
earthy?
earthy.
Or did they add other stuff to it?
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. So the reason I wanted to have you on is we'd quickly chatted, but not for long. Let's on sales or not on sales, on incentives. So kind
Mhm.
of incentives, but not sales incentives, but the incentive side. And to be fair, we have talked a lot about merit and we've talked some stuff, but we haven't really talked about short-term incentives, short-term being a year. Um, and so you said that's a soapbox you want to get on and talking about whether it's,
Mhm.
you should have discretionary, not discretionary, how you move to more structured. So start with kind of the problem you're seeing in the market and then,
Mhm.
what you think should be happening. And I'll go with actually, we could phrase it this way, the consultant blue skies, rainbows and unicorns version, and then the practicality of how your husband might put it into practice in
Oh.
reality.
Yeah, that's a good one. So, and very large companies have very structured incentive programs. They decide on the corporate goals, if there's cascading going on, how much is individual, how much is the next level up. So, my husband has worked for very large companies, and that's all structured. They have ways of administering it that are easy, and managers know how it works. The businesses we work with are smaller, mid-size, some family owned by shareholders of families or a shareholder or a single or two owners. And they can be 300 million, 500 million, and they're giving out bonuses to everybody based on, I still remember that person, and I think they did a good job type of thing. So then it becomes too unmanageable. And then they say, oh, we need a structured program. So that one of the first issues is the pay opportunity to deal with. You would think the measures, but it's really the pay opportunity, which is if you try to cluster people in the jobs, because of course they think of them as people. These are the types of companies where you have to put the person's name next to the title, because otherwise they're like, "Is that so and so?"
Mm.
So you cluster them together into levels that when you go to implement the plan, you're able to say, if you want to be transparent, this level of job has this opportunity and this level of job has that opportunity. Well, when you do that, what you find is as you're trying to put together something that's a little market based, a little affordability issue, is you got people who are in these jobs in a category. Some were paid very little on a discretionary basis, and some were paid a lot more. And so that's problem number one there.
Mhm.
You also have offer letters with guaranteed bonuses in them. Oh, well, we have to put them aside. Um, and then we total it up and we say, okay, you're going to be spending instead of $1 million now based on what we think's affordable and these levels at target, you're going to pay something like $1.5 million. And the CFO says, let's see, how am I going to budget that in? So that I would say is one of the hardest pieces there is just the transition and helping
Yeah.
them think about short term and long term. One of our clients, we have a discretionary adjustment in there. So we're talking about discretion. So we have a more formal set of measures and goals. But if somebody was in this group that really was paid more before, over the first year, we encourage them to have a transitional ability to do an adjustment, a discretionary adjustment to pay more. Never pay less, but always pay more. So that I think is one of the hardest pieces. And then, of course, comes the measures, would be the second more challenging. Do you have a question? Do you want me to stop for a second on the opportunity or keep going?
No, let's see where we go. I mean, I have questions. It would
Yeah.
be rare if I don't have questions, but um, for sure, yeah, keep going because I've just been jotting my questions down as we go.
Okay. And then on the measures is going to be for the first year. Well, of course, the company ability to pay is going to be everything. Are we going to have a profitable year? Do we have enough to fund the plan? In the first year, are we going to just use a company measures? Because then we know there's a direct tie. Or are we going to try to bring down the line of sight into something that is more mega division or department, something along that line? So that is the first part. They come up with some ideas in the beginning, but towards the end, things are changing. Like we went to go implement one, and they totally changed the formula on how it calculates for the company amount. So those things, and so in the first
Huh.
year, they do tend to be more high level. But then they're like, yeah, but what about individual? And this is where some jobs are easy to measure, and other jobs. My favorite one from 20 years ago is how do you measure the receptionist? They don't have receptionists anymore. How do you measure the receptionist on what is their line of sight? And what's the difference between that and their merit increase, type of thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are the two
Yeah.
big challenges, I think.
Are you seeing more companies? Because I think the trend to making it measurable and then, the impact is the big question, right? And so are you seeing more companies, which is kind of what we're seeing, basically have a higher percentage of company index inside the short-term incentive, higher in the organization, and when you get to the, you know, whatever, marketing coordinator, they might
Mhm.
have, 10% company, 90% individual because they're theoretically not driving the top line the same or responsible the same. Although I argue
Th-
that's who usually is actually making the company go, is the person down on the ground.
Done.
But like, are you seeing more companies kind of have that dispersion in their short-term incentives?
Yes, I would say that if we can get past the first two things, they totally understand how measures should be weighted. So, yes, I agree. One other thing, though, you asked earlier as you were setting this up is about where I forget how you asked the question, but there are issues where companies have implemented a more structured plan. And then if it's not quite either implemented in terms of training or some new people come in at the higher level and they're like, "Ah, this is a lot of administration." Now, if I hear that now, I'm just like, come on. In these days, it's a lot of administration. I mean, it used to be that if I wanted to find a platform to do all the work, it was like some ridiculous amount of money per employee per month. Now it would be like, it's so inexpensive, but coming up with, I think they struggle with, okay, we're still not quite in the mode to set the targets on the measures, or,
Mm,
this is a lot of work. So I am seeing that some are saying, I think we're just going to do something simple for a couple years and put it aside. And this was a very interesting one I saw, a 9 box, a corporate funded plan with a 9 box results on how well you are using and adapting to AI. Everybody on the same thing, the whole company. I don't know how, now I've only seen that once, but maybe that's going to be the key thing these days.
God, how
Yeah.
do you measure that? That's like a
Well,
whole nother
that's
perception of how do you measure using AI through a vendor, through myself?
yeah.
Am I
Well,
using it for no good reason?
that was
Yeah.
going to be my sort of question about the second key challenge around the measurement, right? And it's
Hmm.
the is the juice worth the squeeze, right? If I could sort of use that,
Yes.
like so much energy goes into defining measures that,
Hmm.
in candidly, I worked at a company that forced smart goals for everybody. And then I found that the measurement of the goal was just as sort of garbage as the goal setting, right? So it's like I
Yeah.
found a way to make sure that my favorite person's metrics, quote unquote,
Hmm. Hmm.
exceeded the target so I could get them, so do you feel like it's over engineered, right? Are we getting what we are putting into it when we
Yeah.
invest all this effort in measurement? The AI measurement's sort of a classic example. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like you're putting metrics on something that is sort of a finger to the wind to an extent. So I'm just curious your perspective. Like, dude, is it being over engineered in the pursuit of measurement? Is that part of the problem?
I think it wasn't before, but I think now people are asking the question because everything has to be done quickly and easily and all that. And if you're not set up to do that, or if you're in a culture where, perfect example, silos, which is a corporate culture problem, and you think, oh, this incentive plan, we can have some collaboration, we can use the incentive plan to do it. Uh, it's tough. So I want to say that it's going forward in the future, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes
Mm, yeah.
because I think it's open to a lot of change that way. The over engineering or I'm right on board with this. I love all these metrics. Like I've seen people really love. I've had one CFO went from one company to another and, oh, you have to come in, Susan, and do it here. It's going to be so great. It, and he loves it. But then you got others that are just not not as excited about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we had a few episodes ago, we had
Yeah.
James Seachern
Yeah.
on,
That's what I was gonna.
and it got spicy at times as sort of, I think I pushed back in particular because he's an open critiquer. That's not the right word, but that's the word that's coming to mind of
Hmm.
like we're just not doing this right. Like these incentives don't work, right? This isn't what we're after. And as a result, it's a lot of effort with no return. And I'm not ready to go all the way there. I think we're assuming some of the wrong things, but
Mhm.
that's part of the argument is like the measurement is a control mechanism. People don't collaborate more because you're measuring it, right? Like you don't,
Yeah.
it actually stifles the behaviors you're really
Stifles the
looking for.
innovation. And
Y-
like the example
Yeah.
I use a lot is like, because I'm probably, you and I should just do one. Well, I'm a little more where probably James is. So from the development standpoint, you have 13 story points every 2 weeks. And so if you measure output, purely output, you miss like, well, what if I actually can build something that makes us twice as much money with half the work? Well, actually, I shouldn't do that actually, because you're not going to pay me as
Right.
much.
Right.
And you
Yeah.
don't know, your attempt is to read into the future on what measure is going to make sense so you don't allow someone to go create something new, because they literally would create something new so that you can make money and they make less.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's not generally how humans are driven. I also will throw out there, like, the other thing that's out there is if you're using performance, to which you can argue performance tools either suck or doesn't work or whatever, but you already have the opportunity to talk about someone's performance and then drive that into, like, there is a more general number to use, in my opinion, to say, well, if you're a good performer, this is how your bonus is structured. And that bonus is then based on this percentage of individual based on your score of 1 through 5. And the rest is company based. Fine. Um, that's fine.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know if you're
Uh,
seeing more of that, because I think you're already doing that work. And in my mind, very few people get performance right. So why don't you just spend the time that you would come up with new measures and actually just do performance right, and tie that to the bonus?
mhm. Yeah. Well, that's individual measures, which are difficult too. You know what you reminded me of is what is that saying that whatever you measure, you're going to get more of. So
Yeah.
the stifling of the innovation there. So in the same way that I work according to my goals and the targets I'm supposed to reach, in the same way, if I'm really given the right challenge on that, I'm going to work hard to get to it. So there's sort of like both sides. One of my favorite ones too was we were designing a sales compensation program many, many years ago for this company. And the head of HR had a target. One of his goals was to complete sales compensation on time. You know how they were always late. Everything runs late, like past at
Right.
into the
Get the plans out on January 1st, right? The
yeah, yeah.
classic edict. Yeah.
So, anyways, there was all sorts of things that happened and went on during this 3-month process, and all of a sudden, the company let everybody know that they didn't make enough money to fund any bonuses this year. Guess what?
Ouch.
That plan was not done on time. Like, well, I'm not going to get a bonus, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to kill
Hmm.
myself trying to hit that date. So, yeah, there's all sorts of bad behavior and good behavior that
Well,
you can get
how
from that.
complicated do you make them, Susan? Because one of the other pieces you talked about having different departments, and the tech, Excel, whatever, can now
Mhm,
manage a lot of this. So there is this weird thing. If you have a company with multiple divisions, do you fund the
mhm,
bonus pool by division? Do you fund it overall company? What is the metric? Because I've been somewhere where you're having a great year, but other departments are having a bad year. And they're like, well, actually, it's based on the whole company performance. And you're like, Paul is going to sit back and be like, we crushed it. Why am I getting the same as Sean? He's awful over there. Like, his team's doing awful. Um, so how do you suggest they try to be a little more complicated and do it by division, by department, or how do you suggest they
Mm.
allocate the company wide? The
yeah.
company goal to me is always interesting because they're less at the bottom, because you don't drive.
Mhm,
Everyone always says the CEO is 95 or 100%, and the administrative assistant is 95.5, and you're like, I get that, but what about the cat who's 50-50,
right.
who's halfway through, and the company doesn't make it, but they crushed it? Um,
Yeah.
so those are a couple things to throw at you. How are you guiding companies to handle that part of STI? Because the bonus pool, it's the bonus pool. It's funded and it's not contractually obligated.
Mhm. Yeah. I think I've seen many. We had a client that had several divisions, and they purposely put businesses together that are going to have help one division. cover the other. In other words, they don't have like 4 different lines of business that all track the same, all doing great, all doing worse. They purposely do that so the company stays afloat, right? So or so they succeed. And so it does. I even at Aetna, when I was there, the merit process was based on the division, how the division did. This was a really long time ago. That would
Mm.
caused a lot of angst. But I think there it is in the waiting is what it is. But it also requires a lot of communication. Like during COVID, people threw out their plans. A lot of times they either underestimated that they were going to get the windfall or that they couldn't keep, to their plans. And you heard a lot of that on public company executives around how they had to really use discretion. They didn't hit their circuit breaker and things like that, or they threw
Oh,
out their performance management program. That was another one for a year or so. So I don't know. Did I answer your question that way?
yeah, I
I
think
think it is in
kind
the
of how.
waiting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think how they're doing that, but the weighting, it's always interesting to me how stuff gets weighted throughout, and then at a high level, you talked about communications too. So how do you communicate the weighting? And then I always think the interesting part is like Paul's heard me say it, like the people strategy of the company is not usually to hire stupid people. So how do you communicate to them? Because the natural question is like, well, where does the money come for this magic bonus pool? Does it from the magic money tree? Or like what's the formula that it gets here? And what are the rules of engagement for that bonus pool being taken away? Because the real answer is if the CFO wants it, he'll take it, or if the board wants it. So, how have you seen companies use best practices to communicate an STI program? Because I actually find that to be the hardest one because
Yep.
LTI is got rules. And so you kind of can't, you got to stay within the rules of what you can offer people and stuff, right? It may not be fun to read, like, go check out the 409A thing. Someone's like, I'm not reading that. Um, and then merit, it's very individual. So it's very personal and you've got control. And in theory, they blame the person or it's very close. But this whole like how the company does or how my division does, and I
Hmm.
did well, and where's the magic money come from? How do you
Yeah.
see people communicating that effectively? I've seen a lot of ineffective ways.
You reminded me of one other thing before I answered that, which is in private companies, sole owners, they won't share the financials.
I know.
So they use a year over year increase percent in type of thing, right? So my feeling on best practice is since the beginning, we love scorecards that where everyone gets their own one. So they know exactly what the what's the targets are and gets quarterly communications on how things are going. Um, it's kind of like we give the example of it's kind of like kids playing a baseball game, when they don't keep score and everyone thought they won at the end. Like that's what a lot of incentive plans feel like until you do and give them what we call some sort of calculator or some platform or something that tells them what the goals are. They can put in how things are going or that's populated for them. There's a written, you talked about, Sean, the legal there's usually a legal document with long-term incentive. Well, we do a similar document, not legalese. That's a narrative that explains how it works. So those are, I think, a good practice that we've seen work. And we hope that after they've done it and we haven't heard from them for a while, like, did you actually like communicate the second year? And how did you do that?
Mm.
Type of thing. But yes, with anything, I think the transparency is so important and the
Yeah.
regular communications
Yeah.
is important.
For the only thing I'm going to push back on, anytime parents think that they're not keeping score, who's not keeping score is the parents. The
Well,
kids are all keeping score.
but let me
I don't care who you are. Those
let me
kids are,
extend that. Now your
and I
kids
would
are
extend that analogy to
yeah. Now
like here.
here's the thing. So Sean, your kids were high achievers. You're an athlete, right? Like I come from a different end of the sort of athletic tree, right? We participate, but we don't necessarily succeed all the time. But if I actually want to, it's a slight redirect using the same metaphor, right? So I agree. Like you don't keep score. Maybe they're keeping score. My observation is having coached youth teams, and I think there's a parallel here into the corporate world, and a question for you, Susan, which is the kids that want to do well are still going to try and do well, right? My son actually doesn't know the score because he's kind of oblivious about it, but he still tries to hit that home run at every at bat. When the ball comes his way, he absolutely wants to pick up the grounder and throw it to first, right? Like he does all the things to succeed, even though there is zero incentive for him to succeed. So
Mhm.
there's kind of my hot take question, which is, do we think this actually, like, is it really an incentive? Right? Or to some
Yeah.
extent, is it just there to reinforce the behaviors we were likely to get anyway?
Mm.
When I'll
I like
pile on
that.
my thinking on that, Susan, I'll add to that. Like,
Mm.
if it's not incenting, does it become what I think is worse, an expectation?
Mm,
Because the
Yes.
expectation changes and the bonus pool doesn't get funded, and they're like, "How's this my problem? I expected and planned for that." Yeah.
Yes. I think those are great questions, and they all happen. When I was at a large company, it was expected that you get 85% of your maximum or whatever they called it, a target. And so yes, if you don't communicate, then there is that expectation. The incentive, I think, is a market thing, a compensation thing, right? Which is you get a new job, and before you had a 15% incentive and such bonus, and now they say to you, well, we only have 10% for your job. Um, but we'll make your total cash the same. We're like, wow, that's pretty good because your incentive is supposed to be at risk. You shouldn't be like converting what you could make at target, right, into the base. But I think it's very much a market thing or a status thing. It's like becoming from non-exempt to exempt. Like, oh,
mm.
I'm exempt now, right? I don't want to be non-exempt. I don't want to be an entry level non-exempt. Is some way it's a status thing, right? One
Which
last
I
thing
think is
though,
one of the
talking
dumbest things ever, by the way. I'll just comment. I wish I thought I was so cool when I was a developer and moved to exempt status. What a dumbass I was. I should have been paid by because I think my
Now I
hourly
want to be paid
was
by the
about a
hour. Yeah.
dollar. I think my hourly wage was a dollar by the time I
yeah,
was done.
yeah.
Like, it is
Oh,
funny how it is, like, you're right, it's a status thing,
Yeah.
but
and I
like
think we're talking a lot about sort of, corporate people or support professional people. But hourly people, I forgot to mention that. We've done some of that. And we did a study, like a research. This was before we had the internet, but we had other stuff around behavioral studies that were done on hourly employees. Now, an hourly employee could be a nurse, a highly paid nurse, to a picker off assembly line, and how much that motivates. And what we found in the analysis that was done then was, I think that was the early 2000s, was that for hourly employees, they'd rather have their money in their check rather than wait for a bonus. And you have to pay at
yeah.
least 2 weeks' pay and a bonus for it to be reasonable, to be acceptable that way. And whatever you do decide to pay as a bonus, you don't have to pay a lot. Just a little, just
Mm,
enough to be competitive. So that was super interesting around the whole hourly piece. But we also had a client who had issues where they ran a 24-hour assembly line, and the work was hot in hot areas
mm.
in Texas. And so, what they did, instead of really using they decided not to they kept the performance management more like a step increase type of thing, except
Yeah.
if you had really bad performance, no increase. And instead, they put some key things that were important in the bonus plan, and they created a quarterly bonus. Well, we all did. So basically, it was things like attendance, safety, those
Sure.
things, and there were descriptions. So a level 1 was this description, a level 5 was that description, and it. And so that was a very interesting way to use the incentive.
So I'll have one more question, cognizant of time. Do you see the timing changing over a period? So annual incentives were kind of a thing that, started a long time ago when people stayed 7, 10, 12, 15 years in a job. Are you seeing or having people start thinking about, well, if it's an incentive based on productivity and other stuff, doing monthly, longest quarterly type of things. And that might be different for Paul, who's maybe project based in consulting. I might be on development drops somewhere. Like, are you seeing people move to incentives that way? Or are you seeing a lot of people still sticking to the earliest quarterly and more annual based?
Yeah, I think annual and World at Work data supports that as most common, but I think there is uh, a situations where something different is appropriate. Project quarterly. My husband worked for a company that the the executive team was on a quarterly because of the challenges they were facing. So, they did, they every on the quarter, they did, and they paid enough. You have to pay enough too to pay more often. So,
Huh.
you can't take a $5,000 bonus, divide by 4, take taxes out, and call that
Yeah.
meaningful.
Doesn't
Um,
math. Yeah.
no. So you have to pay enough in order to pay more often.
The only thing I'll push back, I mean, other than the legality of that, is when you pay a large, well, if it's outside the
Yeah.
legal bounds, is is when you pay annually, you have this outflux of employees. You saw it a lot at consultancies, because you're like,
Mhm.
sure, I'll retain until I get that bonus. And the next bonus is
It's
now
quitting
6,
season.
12 months out. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
you know, like, because I think from a retention standpoint, quarterly is like, they're still going to look at some point, but you don't ask them to evaluate the system like you do on an annual bonus because it's there. So I think
Yep.
timing, like I think it's complicated based on your role, supply and demand, and other things. But I do think companies are going to move to more frequency or project based, because
Mhm.
otherwise you're like, if I do a really good job on this project, does it really matter? Because bonus is 10 months away. I'll just do well on the next project.
Mm.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
versus like
Yeah.
the faster I work at this, the faster I get this done if it's tied to business.
Yeah, we did have one, client now who wanted to do it based on they have, buyers who, they sell things. They're a retailer. They sell things, so it could be seasonal around when that season closes and, on certain types of things. So they wanted to have that bonus pay out right after, everything was calculated for those groups of people. It wasn't a lot of people,
Yeah.
and in the end, they said, "Too complicated."
Yeah.
So it's and they're paying everyone the same time.
Mm.
Yeah. I am worried, like as we get towards the end, like I am worried the like James basically said, coming back to that, like, can we, and should we are two different questions around there. And then how do you make it kind of team focused versus, the analogy I use all the time is everyone during high school or college was on a group project. And if you were on the group project that everyone did equal work, please raise your hand, because
Yeah.
that like never happens.
Right.
So I do think, like, how do you weigh all that? So I think it's great you came on. Like, there, it's complicated, and honestly, of base pay, LTI, and STI, you are more likely to hear me say the dreaded "it depends" um,
Mhm.
around STI than any of the others.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, I
different
think
for
that's
sure.
a good, thing to say that every business, startup, mature, large, small, ownership type, forget, private equity. That's like another whole thing. So they're all different, and you want to do something that works. You just can't copy a program
Yeah,
from one to the other. That was always, when I was internal, that was always one of the things that drove me crazy. Someone new would come in and say, "Well, we did this at our last
yeah,
company and this will work here." And I'm like, "What company did you work for?" "I don't think
Mhm.
so."
yeah.
So,
So this has been great. So it
mhm,
doesn't have to be around STI,
mhm.
but um, if you could automagically, which is the highly technical term I coined
Yep.
for it, if you could automagically solve any one thing in HR over the time, or you could automagically solve it for your husband, the CHRO, what would you solve?
I think over time it's still this business for HR really to concentrate on the business. And that's super important to always think about what is the business issue we're solving. We can all get caught up in HR in the day to day emergencies and things that happen. But putting that in perspective, that business and that risk perspective, I think is what we could solve. And a lot of them say, "Oh, we have a seat at the table," or "We're business oriented," but not not everybody. So I think that's important, and not every company. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? If the HR team is putting the business first and really asking those questions, does that make the ownership or whoever's running the company involve them correctly? Or does it take the senior people, the ownership, to leave it open for HR to be
Hmm.
more involved in the business? I think that's a
No, I think that's
question.
going to be, I'll double down on that because I think the science behind the roles and total rewards are going to be
Mm,
easier, but the art, to your point, applying it back, and it's going to require the art and knowledge to apply the art in the business.
yeah.
Um, This has been awesome. I'm gonna
I've
say, Paul,
enjoyed it.
what I've not said in a long time, we haven't done is make sure people click the follow and like button. I have been reprimanded by others that I don't say that, and now I feel like a true podcaster that I'm saying, you know, hit that like button or follow us. So evidently that matters. Paul and I obviously are more interested in talking to cool people
Yeah.
than we are on followers because someone's like, you don't ever do that. Um, so make sure people follow. We will put Susan's contact information in there so people can find her. She's obviously super knowledgeable about this, especially if you're in that place where you're trying to move from just discretionary doling out money to wrapping something formulaic around it. I really appreciate you coming on, Susan. That was great.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
my
Thanks,
pleasure.
Susan.
Thank
I
you.
guess you too, Paul. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah, you deal with me one more time.
Yeah.
But thank you, Susan.